All right, and we're live. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Deconversion Stories. Today's a little bit different. I'm talking with Ocean the Wizard. You guys know him probably from Twitter, and he's been on other cool shows like Truth Wanted, and he's been on Non-Sec quite often. Ocean is actually a polytheist, but I believe we've had conversations about this before, Ocean, where you were talking that you were a sort of a regular theist or something at one time, and then became
a regular theist.
Or, well, you know what I mean.
Like those normal Christians, I guess. Yeah. No, I was weird even for a Christian when I was a Christian, in fairness. But yeah, I'm sure I was a Christian until I was like 21 or so. So I got really serious about it for a while there, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like, were you like out on the street corners with a bullhorn preaching shit, or?
No, I wasn't doing that. That wasn't quite it, but it was more. I got really into like Bible study and like historical thinking about Christianity, and I was interested in doing like the whole pastoral thing for a little while, like when I was younger, like when I was like somewhere between like 16 and 18, and because I was just like, this is the like, I don't know, I saw a lot of value in Christianity at the time, but that wasn't to last. So but no, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you as you're doing your intro. So
no. Yeah, no, that was pretty much it. I mean, looks like I'm getting choppy. That was pretty much it. I mean, we're going to talk about what it was that kind of made you think that Christianity was kind of horseshit, and you moved on to this polytheistic view that you have now. And I went from what I remember, Thor's your main guy, right?
It's not. I say Thor like because that's the thing that everybody kind of references when it pops up in debates or something like that. I'm the guy that believes in Thor, but honestly, like the nature of being polytheist, guess what? It's not just Thor. Obviously, there's multiple gods that are being venerated and examined and so on. But with Christianity, like, I guess to get back into that for a second, I was really serious about it. I was like super into Bible study. I've got like my old Bible is like all marked up and like with commentary on verses and stuff like that, some of which I still like going back and reading it sometimes. Like I still kind of agree with some of the things that I wrote down as far as interpretation is concerned, which just makes when I'm debating with Christians interesting, because I'm fairly familiar with not only what my interpretation is, but with different denominations' interpretations and the history of Christianity. I went to college I went to a Christian college that was set in the Congregationalist denomination, and was studying religion and history, and I wound up getting a history and religion degree. It wasn't like a Christian college, and
that's cool though.
Like I it's a respectable degree, we'll put it that way. But it's not like those, like it's not like a creationist school or anything like that.
Right.
Because I was like, I guess what would term is like a liberal Christian, where I had a very metaphorical examination. I was never a creationist. I was always an evolutionary theist, or theistic evolutionist, or whatever you would want to call them.
You pretty much accepted that evolution was factual, basically.
Right. Yeah. It's like I never had an issue with scientific like understanding as a Christian. Never bothered me. I've always been like into the idea of like space exploration and the concept of like meeting aliens, and like as a Christian I would wonder like whether or not, like, if we met aliens, would that wind up being like, would they have like a Jesus or something like that? Would that be something that they would want to talk to us about? That would be like a whole, there's a ton of mental experiments that come with what if we bump into aliens as a Christian. And it always weirded me out when Christians were like, no, there can't be aliens because the Bible says there's no aliens or something. I don't know.
We're it, right? That was it.
Yeah,
It would always be interesting. I always thought that
like
if
every
there are
Christian's a
aliens
different
and
thing
they've
on aliens.
reached, oh yeah, but I always thought, like, if there were aliens, would they have a religion? Because if you think about it, religion is almost part of our evolution as well. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of always been there one way or another. So it makes me wonder if there were other civilizations out there that were at our level, or to some degree that they would have some sort of a belief system, like,
The
because
things
they
that,
probably had things they didn't understand and do, right?
right. The things that make me think about that is as far as spirituality, because there's been all kinds of like little experiments about how like animals will perform rituals in order to make things happen if you put them in a controlled scenario. Like pigeons will spin around in circles in order to get food dropped in if they associate the receiving of food with them spinning around in a circle. Um, and that's always been interesting to me. Like people kind of make associations between spirituality and things happening in life, and is that just something that's like connected to us as being alive? So that it would then be consistent with aliens having a religion, or is it something that's like, uh, would there be an atheist or an atheist alien thing? I don't know. Because there's a lot of like human religions that could be termed as atheistic. Would aliens have something like that, and all that other kind of crap? Uh, those are questions that have always been like interesting to me, but it hasn't really come up in like debates or anything like that. So I've never gone into it. But I did think about that as a Christian, like about like what would Jesus want me to convert aliens? That was something that I was like, how
That reminds me of that South Park episode with the Mark Clark people. And I think SJ today did a post on. She had like 4 options: atheist, yes and no; theist, yes and no. If we believe that aliens existed, yeah.
Are we gonna talk about aliens all day? Did SJ ever say what her position is on that? On aliens?
You know what?
That would be.
I don't
kind of
really
want to know
remember
what she thinks about that. Because like
Yeah,
like
so
I
do
said,
I.
on aliens, like every Christian is completely different when it comes to whether or not there's aliens, whether or not they would be some form of Christianity, whether or not that would be acceptable, and whether or not we should convert them. Like those are all really interesting questions for Christians, I think. And
For sure.
put them in really weird, because the Bible doesn't address aliens, doesn't address what you should do if you come in contact with them, whether or not they should be converted.
I don't think they thought about it. I don't think they had a concept.
But if it's the perfect word of God, it should address it. It should, damn it.
Yes. Yeah, and it should be in there somewhere. Oh, by the way, you're not alone in the universe I just created.
Right.
It's something.
Unless you take the text to suggest that because aliens aren't mentioned, that by absence in the text they wouldn't be there, and that we are alone in the universe. I guess that would be that would definitely be the perspective of like a flat earther Christian, because we're the only inhabitable planet.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a weird world.
All right. So now that we went off on the alien tangent there,
that's quite a tangent.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. It's food for thought, really.
I love the question with Christians dealing with that one. It's fun. But go ahead.
Do you think if they just showed up here one day in a bunch of giant crowds, so, hey, by the way, we're here, do you think that might change people's ideologies a little bit with in regards to religion?
If something changes, would things change? Yes. I definitely think that like if aliens show up, that definitely would be a paradigm shift for a lot of people. Like for I think people have asked me this question about polytheism, is that as far as like would there be gods of other planets or something like that, and I've tentatively said that yeah, that's totally possible. Like that you might have like a deity representing like the red spot of Jupiter or something like that.
Sure.
And for other planets and other alien species or whatever, it's totally possible that they might be that if you have a polytheist meeting polytheist aliens, it would be, I think, a much more interesting conversation than a Christian meeting atheist aliens or a Christian meeting polytheist aliens. But I think the most fun would be a Christian meeting a alien that has a Christian-like exclusivity religion that has a salvation deity of their own. Or it's like, oh, you have Jesus.
Like well, we have fly on the wall there.
We have Umthunk that is going to be saving your soul, and if none of you convert to Umthunk, we're going to glass the planet. Shit. Shit.
Oh, I'm choking on my beer here, man.
What is it like Stephen Hawking was a little bit concerned about stuff like this when it comes to us being so loud as a planet where we're just shooting our radio signals into the ether, where it's like, you know, if some super powerful alien follows that and winds up here, it's gonna be like, you know, Europe crossing the Atlantic. Like the technology difference is gonna be like on par with that. And you know, we could be met with nasty diseases. We could be met with crusaders. We could be met with some other kind of warlike alien setup that just would not be good for us at all. So we should be totally quiet. Stop just shooting radio signals into the
into the void.
The universe.
Well, I always think, you know, some of the first radio signals were shit by Hitler, right? That were shot up.
Oh, I don't know the history of radio signals that well, but
well, his television broadcast, right?
Great. So
him going, you know, yelling and screaming.
What a great!
They're going to be like,
introduce the rest of the universe too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to go, okay, we should wipe them out right now before they get
at least by the time they get that, they'll just be going, what's he saying?
Yeah.
Rather than, because
he looks serious.
I doubt they speak German. But you know, cool.
You never know.
Who knows?
All right, so okay. Hang on. I got a question here.
I know that
from Randolph here.
The chat is definitely wanting us to like go to the normal conversation where we talk about deconversion. Instead, we're pontificating about aliens for God knows how long.
Oh, you guys, you know that my chats go all over the place sometimes, so don't act surprised. All right, so all right, so let's get back to all right, let's go to the sort of the root cause of your switch from like a theistic view to polytheistic view.
Monotheistic to polytheistic. So
yes,
I'm strict on that, but so I mean, again, I was a Christian for a long time. I was really into it and so on. But part of being really into it and the way that I was is that I love to analyze things and try and poke holes in them. And that's not good for being a Christian and taking your spirituality seriously and trying to approach it honestly, which is like what I've always tried to do with spirituality. I want to like test it. I want to be rigorous about it. I want to poke holes in it, see how I would criticize it. And with Christianity, you know, I eventually found out essentially that there was a lot of logical problems with Christianity, and the way that Christians, even on the PhD philosophy level, deal with them are just come off as dishonest. And I'm like, well, if these guys, like the establishment philosophy community, is doing things that I view as being a little like weasel wordy or dishonest, I'm like, why are you? What? No, this is okay. I need to examine this myself. and beyond that, I work. I'm not going to say like specifically what my job is, but I do work a lot in logistics, and so like arranging certain things taking place, getting people in the right place, making sure that people are communicated to appropriately, and all that kind of thing. And it's, you know, very logistics heavy. And I was looking at like how, if God's goal is to give people salvation, he sent out the most wordy, I'm going to turn off my, sorry, man.
Yeah, I had to turn my ringer down too.
The most wordy messy email that he could have possibly sent out to everybody through the Bible. So like that thing is not easy to understand.
Also in a language that he knew should have been dead within a couple hundred years. So
right. Hold on, I'm gonna shoot a text message. I'm sorry, dude. I'm gonna shoot a text message to this person that's called me several times already.
We're having a conversation on a YouTube channel. Life still happens, so it's
I know, right?
fine. As long as they get the message that that you got that you're busy, then that's cool.
Yeah,
get back to them.
It's luckily this guy happens to know that I do these kind of things, so I can just be like on a show. So, blog. Where was I? Okay, yeah. Anyway, so he sent out like the most messy, convoluted email he could have possibly sent out, which is just full of like these like really bad explanations for things, the logistics of how salvation works, getting to heaven, the way that he's getting us that message, like all the important parts are hidden in various places through it. It's not, there's nothing concise necessarily. Some Christians might point out John 3:16, which, like, great. Okay, so the most important verse is in the 3rd chapter of the 16th verse of the 4th gospel of this book that's got 68. But it's like it's not even at the front. Like, you know, like you buried the lead a little bit with that one. I don't know when people like give you like the elevator pitch of Christianity. It's always around like that salvation thing, and you know, being saved and from hell and all this other shit. But that also just doesn't make very much sense to me with the whole loving God concept that he's got a place of like hell for people that may not have like ever known about this. Again, Christians disagree on that. And the clarity on things like that is also seems to be an issue with the Bible. Like this is that's the problem. The biggest problem that I have with Christianity is when you examine one problem and you try to come up with a solution for it, it winds up affecting all the rest of the shit in a way that is
and more problems
just so messy. I'm trying to wrap my head around Christianity became like there's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. The mental gymnastics is just like it's hard work.
It was like that for me in Judaism too.
Right, and that's I didn't even start thinking about. I didn't even start thinking about the Trinity seriously until after I had left Christianity already, trying to explain it to somebody. Right, like how does that work? And then still be monotheistic afterwards. Well, God has a son, and also there's this Holy Spirit thing. By the way, there's only one God, and then but there's three. But there's one. There are 3 persons, but there's one
3
God.
Forms.
3 coexistent persons in one God. That's what it is. I don't know what that means. How that's not 3 gods, but that's what they say, right? That there's like a Godhead. But does God, the sum of these 3 persons? That's heretical. Does God, being these 3 persons, have like a single agency or 3 agencies? I've never been able to, like, the ontology of understanding the Trinitarian God, especially when it's used to fix problems like, was God all loving? Well, before creation, because the reason why you have the Trinity is so God can be all loving before creation because he loves his son and he loves the Holy Spirit. Great. So he's all loving now. So he's not alone. That solves that. But we're still monotheistic, even though we're using the 3 persons in order to solve a problem that obviously comes in with monotheism. Okay. All right. So now then you go from that to a God that is impossible to wrap your head around. It's not monotheism. It's not polytheism.
My head hurts already.
Then you got to get in heaven and hell. And you got to, in order to get to the heaven thing, you got to believe this. Okay. Well, if I don't understand it, how can I believe it? Well, fuck.
You're screwed.
Like that's the big part of that is with Christianity and the Trinity, just understanding the Trinitarian God. It's centered around belief, but also with something that you can't understand. Which,
Yeah.
damn it. Damn it. So, like that problem.
Why you do
and the
this?
right. Like, I don't know why I'm supposed to, and this is what a perfect God has writing on your salvation, is for you to believe something you don't get, and it's impossible to get, and it's acknowledged even among Christians. We're not going to get it. Okay, but you just have to believe anyway. So you want me to be dishonest with myself? It never worked for me. I didn't get it. I say never.
I had
I
hard
was a
times with
Christian
some
for a
stuff
long
I
time,
grew up
but
with.
after I started examining this kind of stuff and starting to get into this sort of perspective, it got really hard for Christians to witness to me. And I wound up converting to paganism at a Christian college. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, like this wasn't after I graduated, dude. I graduated when I was 24. I converted to I left Christianity and was like agnostic kind of. I decided wipe the slate clean. Let's start over on spirituality, and then I eventually became polytheist. Through another long, arduous journey. But leaving Christianity is okay. I'm nothing now, and then I was something after that. That's a weird way of putting it. I didn't have a spirituality, and then I did have a spirituality.
Well, do we classify spirituality as having some form of religion, or is it just
I think
some
you can
people
have
think that
you can have a
spirituality
spirituality without religion.
nature, like with nature, or shit like that, right?
That's really pagan of you, but
well, I was one too. Don't forget we were talking about
that. But damn it. So I'm like, I as converting to pagan at a Christian school, I did have Christians trying to witness to me on a regular basis. So I was debating spirituality.
So wait, they knew this was happening?
Yeah.
With you?
Well, I mean, okay. I didn't express that I had deconverted necessarily. I was I kind of I got to a point where I didn't come out of the closet as pagan at any point. I did get to a point where I was like, I'm going to stop denying it at this point. Okay. And then I would, people would ask me about my spirituality. It's like, well, I'm actually not Christian. I'm this other thing. Oh, well, we need to talk about God. Because I'm at a school that's associated with a church. So there's a lot of Christians there. Like half of the population of the school was really religious Christian, and the other half of the population was like either ambivalent or atheist or didn't, there's all kinds of things. But I did wind up having a lot of people at lunch between classes sit down with me and be like, all right, so why don't you believe in God? And we'd have to have that conversation from there. So I've had to explain my spirituality to people that don't agree with it for a really long time now. That, for about, 3 years of college. And after that, I did the 5-year journey of college. Christian for 2 and 3 as a pagan. And, like since college, I've wound up having like conversations with people on the internet, and it's less Christians on the internet. It's more atheists. But again, it's a very similar conversation where it's like, well, I do believe in gods, not the Christian. It's a different thing. I promise you, it's a different thing than Christianity. No, it is a different thing. And then trying to have that conversation. And it's like, well, what about the problem of evil? Well, I don't care about it. Well, why not? Well, because it doesn't fucking matter to polytheists. So,
yeah, people are either good or they're bad. It's that simple.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're not like goodness and evil are not seen the same way in polytheism as they are in Christianity. It's not. There's not like a seed of morality that is the objective defining thing. I think that makes goodness like super arbitrary when you do that with when you try and root morality in some like all-powerful deity.
Yeah, I know.
Because like whatever's good is just at the whim of the all-powerful deity. It's arbitrary at that point. It's not, has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, agreed.
So our intuitions about what is good and evil, we're not God. we're created in his image, and that's like the only connection you can probably make to it. But that's.
Can I ask you a quick question from the audience?
I'm rambling like crazy at this point. I'm sorry. Go for it.
No, that's what this is about, man. Bad Temper Badger wants to know if you own a staff.
I do.
For some reason.
I do own a staff. I do. Oh, hold on.
I do too.
Hold on.
Which is crazy.
Hold on.
This is awesome. Let's compare staffs. Wait, that could be misconstrued.
I know, right? I know. I'm not going to call myself Ocean the Wizard on the internet without having a proper staff. But it's not like there's no like runes engraved in it or anything. But this is something. This staff found me. I didn't find it.
Oh, cool.
I was walking and found this, and it was like this. It's already been skinned and everything like that. I guess it was lost by somebody, but
could be.
At the time I was just like, well, this is a gift.
Hang on 1 second, because I got one too.
Okay, yours is probably like if you were a Wiccan, yours is probably more involved than mine.
Yeah, mine was made for me by my sister. Oh yeah, good look there, Neil. Mine was made for me by my sister, who was a Wiccan. Mm-hmm. And I found this at Lauren Lake when I went camping with my birth family a couple of years after I met them. And she put in all kinds of stuff like little gems in here and animal teeth. And
oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and she put a little dragon on here and a big gem at the top and stuff. So I still have this. And I was like, you know what? It's kind of really flimsy. So I went and bought one of those things you put on the bottom of stools.
Right. I've thought about doing that with mine. Here's the bottom of mine. It's relatively worn, I guess, but I guess it's not in focus. But yeah, it's been on a few trails, few places. So.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's something I remember my sister by now because she was killed in a motorcycle accident a few years ago.
So. That's a good reason to keep it.
Yeah. Well, shit, she made it for me. I couldn't not keep it.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, before we started comparing our staffs, where were we going here?
We have to cross the staffs. That's what the chat is wanting us to do. We have to touch staffs.
All right. Well, you guys will have to wait till we get to one of them atheistic conventions or something that we happen to be at together. I'll make sure I bring mine. I've
toyed with the idea of going to one of those.
You should, man.
Like Faithless Forum or something like that. Like there's the popular YouTube atheist community and even Twitter atheist community is like, it seems that I get along with a lot of them, but then there's also a lot of them, the ones that I don't get along with, really don't get along with. So it's like, well, if I go to one of these things, am I going to be like, is everything going to be okay?
You know what? You find the group that you're cool with, and we'll keep the other assholes away from you.
Fair enough.
So there you go.
I'm
pretty intimidating, man.
Cyrus is chill. He's going to be going to one of those at some point, and I was just like, maybe I should tag along because we're on Hammered Out together and everything like that, and I'm definitely like involved in this community. I'm like the lost YouTuber, so to speak, but it's thank you. It's been out of commission for a minute because I've had like insanity going on everywhere, but like I've my work ramped up very recently and is now I'm back now, so I can start like doing some more stuff. But
cool.
Fiddlesticks. It's my word.
I haven't heard that since my grandma passed away, dude.
There was a book that I read. There's a book that I read like when I was a kid, where Fiddlesticks is the name of a cat in it, and it was wind up becoming like it. I was like, that's such a fun word to say, is Fiddlesticks, so I just wound up saying it. But yeah, words. I don't know. Ask me a question. I don't know where I'm at.
Frustrated atheist wants to know if you've been reading his fun facts about you.
I read a couple of them. That my beard was a gift from Odin.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I want to have.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ragnarok is soon upon us, but Ocean said no. Um, Ocean once wrestled Fenrir. Tyr got pissed off since the last time he did. His hand got bitten off. But I meant that, look at that. Both of them still there. Take that.
Oh, Russ. There you go. He's been reading them.
Yeah.
Just not out loud.
I just scrolled through them, but
Shane says hello, Ocean.
Hello, Shane.
Shane's like everywhere.
He is omnipresent.
Right? I'm starting to think he's actually God.
Might be. At least as far as like God manifesting himself in instant messages. Because I've never heard him. He sent me a message on Discord being like, "Hey, you should go on Neil's show."
Did he really?
No, he sent me a message just today being like, "Friendly heads up that the audience is waiting for you." I'm so sorry I was late, guys.
Attaboy, Shane.
I was like, shit. Because you sent me, I saw the message you sent me. I was like, fuck. It's part of the reason why I'm like wired at the moment, because I'm like, I needed to be here.
Shit happens, man. We work around the shit.
Yeah. Did you get to see the Winger debate, by the way? That whole
I saw a little bit of it.
Fiasco.
Yeah.
That was fun.
I don't know why you intentionally sent me to that, by the way. It's like trying to make my heart stop or something. Some of the shit that was coming out of
oh, dude.
I don't even know.
He was like, I'm not gonna compare homosexuality to bestiality, but isn't it kind of like bestiality? Like, he didn't say that directly, but that was like the spirit of the debate, because he brought up bestiality later.
I know.
He's like, I'm not trying to compare it, but he compared it. So
it's like how they somehow compare pedophilia at times to homosexuality too.
Yeah,
I've heard that before.
Yeah, that's I've heard that one.
It's kind of wacky.
And that's I made my arguments there that about, as far as like how polytheists view homosexuality, it's like that our legends and stories are pretty rife with it, so there's not really a way for us to really look down on it. There is a
why would you?
There is like a I forget the word, but there is like a word for of like, it's looked down upon in at least Norse culture to be the receiver, but that's also a vantage point that's not like inherent to the religion, and it's also something that, like, as polytheists we can disagree with our ancestors on things. We don't have to be like, well, the Vikings were the perfect examples of people, because obviously they weren't, but you can they
were so fucking cool.
They were cool, and like there's some people are into like the aesthetic of it and everything like that. Look at my beard, obviously, but you can look at any civilization and be like, I really like these parts of it. I think these parts of it are really valuable.
Yeah.
This stuff, not so much. And then you can kind of try and figure out like how those are related, how to practice and like emulate the parts that you are drawn to, and without taking on the baggage of that which you're not drawn to.
Sure.
And that's like, I think that's a good check on spirituality. As I said in the Mike Winger thing, that I think that philosophy being a check on religion is something that's very valuable. Which I try to do as much as possible as a polytheist, because as I said in the opening from this, I'm constantly re-examining and approaching my belief system as honestly as possible, and I think that that's important, especially in like these debate scenes and stuff like that. I don't want to be like I don't want to be the dishonest guy, which is how people see like your Ken Hams and all this other bullshit. Like there's a lot of people that talk about religion in a debate scene that are just completely either dishonest or just messes. I try not to be that. Like I'm like, all right, we can acknowledge things, we can be intellectually honest, and we can have a discussion with respect without being like a dishonest prick. Being a dishonest prick is not inherent to being spiritual or religious or
Nope.
theistic.
But just a quick little shout out I wanted to do. If you guys like this shirt, by the way, it's the Geek Room. Yeah, I know you know who they are. So
good guys.
They have link. Oh yeah, they're awesome. I told Frank I would give him a quick little shout out for the shirt, and they do have these available on their.
I need to go see them. They've invited me out to throw axes with them.
Are they?
Yeah, and
that would be badass, man.
They're nearby too, so it's like it wouldn't be like too far of a drive for me to go throw axes with them. So I might do it as soon as I find the time
Frank's
to do it.
Where he shows himself and he's doing them backwards and shit. And
right, I'm like, you know what? I need to join him for that. That just seems like it's beer and axes. And
yeah.
What can go wrong with getting inebriated?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
With
throwing axes. Shit, it's bad enough when I play darts drunk. I can't imagine what axes are going to be like.
So he says they tweeted his staff to me. Bad Tempered Badger tweeted his staff. It's got a pretty cool staff.
Oh, did he? Yeah, he said he was going to.
Yeah.
I tweeted my staff at Mr. Ocean. Ooh, Mr. Ocean.
Mr.
Some respect going on there.
Being said Mr.
Fuck, I wish I could drive there too and throw axes. That'd be awesome.
Right. Right. Yeah, I found I just retweeted your thing pointing to the show.
Oh, cool.
So maybe we'll get some pagan showing.
I guess maybe we'll I guess we'll have to go for a little longer.
Post it in my Discord real quick as well. Yeah.
Am I in your Discord? I don't know if I'm in your Discord.
My Discord is like really, really private.
that's probably why I'm probably not.
It's a heathen educational Discord. So one of the things that I try to do as far as like the polytheist community goes, and this can be like maybe helpful to people that are like, is he really polytheist? I've built a server, and I also do a lot of this stuff in real life with a church that I'm working with. I've helped build in the city that I'm in, and what I'm trying to do is make sources for heathenry and the study of it and polytheism in general as available as possible to people that are looking for texts and such related to that. So the Discord that I run has a library on it, and it also has links to books that are that I've found useful. Because one of the hardest things about being pagan is wading through all the I hesitate to use the word woo, but a lot of it is woo, just the and ahistorical crap in order to actually get to like what a lot of people are interested in, which is what the history of it is, what the philosophy of it is.
Right.
What did the Romans actually think? What did the Greeks actually think? What did the Norse or the Vikings, what did they actually think? And I spent like a good solid 3 to 5 years trying to track down sources that weren't just written by some guy pontificating on his own, you know what I mean? Or somebody that had a cult, or there's just a mess of different motivations that people have in order to write like pagan books. And what I've compiled is a list that's basically that's like historians, philosophers, texts about philosophy that may not be written by a philosopher but are worth a read. There's a shortage of PhD philosophers of polytheism. There's 2 big ones that I'm aware of. Well, 3.
Oh.
But there's Jordan Paper, Edward Butler, and Stephen Dillon, and they're all really good, but they're definitely a minority in the philosophy community, like having that kind of accreditation. So I've made those available for people. Edward Butler makes his works available online for free. If you're interested in like highbrow philosophy conversation, he goes like hard into philosophy of polytheism from a Platonist perspective. and he's really heady, but he's
Cool.
he's a good writer. So, and he's he knows his stuff. Beyond that, I've also compiled. There's a list of books by Ronald Hutton, who's a historian on Celtic history, and then let me go to the reading list real quick.
Do a lot back in the day because that's kind of where my roots were. So,
with who? With
I delved a lot into yeah.
Did you come across Ronald Hutton's stuff at all, or
Yeah.
somebody that people like often bump into because he's not a pagan, but he definitely shows up at a lot of the conventions because he's got a lot of readership that's there.
That's what he writes about, right? So
right, yeah. He writes about history of Celtic paganism, so or like Druidry and early religion in the British Isles specifically.
Sure.
Then there's stuff by Davidson, H.R.E. Davidson, stuff like Road to Hell, Gods and Myths of Northern Europe. These are like stuff that she wrote this stuff in like the 40s and such, but it's all really valuable stuff that a lot of heathens are like looking for. Like they don't know these names, they don't know these books, so the server wound up being like a place for people to find it, read it, talk about it, share experiences, and have discussion.
Very cool.
In a way that's constructive and it's not like a debate atmosphere, which is the reason why I don't really like just invite everybody to it. Because it's meant for like a very specific thing. So, yeah, that cool. There's that. I'm bad at ending things. If you haven't noticed, I'm terrible at ending things. Shut me up. I'll keep going.
That's why you're here, man. We're okay.
Yeah, we were talking about deconversion. Did I answer your question on deconversion, or did we?
Well, yeah, you were going on about how you were in college, and you about almost halfway through, you kind of left the Christianity behind and started in contemplating on paganism,
right?
Or polytheism.
Coming out was interesting in Christian college. Saying
what was it that it was something that was more believable than say what you had previously believed?
Well, so I'd had a number of spiritual experiences, even as a Christian, and where you feel like a presence that's outside of you or something like that, and there's and I felt that with like different kind of energies to it, I guess you would say, which to me is an experiential argument for multiple deities rather than just one. Now Christians have a number of ways of explaining these things. It's like, oh, that was an angel, oh, that was a demon, oh, that was whatever, or that's God trying to communicate to you differently or whatever. And because Christians will talk about how they can differentiate between an experience with Jesus and an experience with the Holy Spirit, but they're monotheistic anyway.
I always found funny. You never hear of atheists that get possessed by demons,
right? Possession is like a whole different bag of goodies.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Exorcist is a great movie, but
oh man, there's a project that I might have on the horizon that I can't talk about. That's somewhat related to that.
But I'll drop a little bomb here.
So, yeah, exactly.
Get everybody going. Oh, no. Tell me.
My job is involved with like film and storytelling. So there's some. I love getting involved with like horror movies and stuff like that. So every once in a while I get a project that has to do with things like that where I'm like, yes, I get to play
awesome.
With these concepts.
I went to film school to do that.
Yeah.
I went to Vancouver Film School. I took low budget filmmaking. I was going to make some really cheesy horror zombie type movies at one point. I never did, but yeah.
That's the reason why I took the 5-year journey in college. I actually got kicked out of film school. Because I started out at a Christian school, went to film school for 2 years, and then they were like, there's like a sophomore slaughter kind of thing where they wind up removing a bunch of people who aren't good enough, and I wasn't good enough. So I was one of the people that was cut, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that means my film career is over. It was like devastating when I got thrown out of film school. But then I went back to get my degree, and then I just came down to Atlanta and started working in film, and it's been pretty good since then. Like there was working the job is completely different from going to like a competitive school for the job. So that's about as much as I can really go into my professional career. But because I try to keep like this online debate thing like a separate from like professional career stuff. But it's like I love what I do for work, and I'm super happy with it. With as far as like religion debate stuff is concerned, pull the conversation back to that. Like when I came back from film school, I wound up getting more into the polytheism side of things, and then that's when Christians at the Christian school that I went to discovered that I was pagan, and wound up having like a lot of trying to convert me to Christianity.
Wanted to save you, buddy.
Right, of course. And a lot of them, some of them, like, they're good guys. Like,
Sure.
I understand a lot of the reasons why people that were close friends of mine there at the school who happened to be Christians wanted to convert me. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. And there were some people whose intentions were definitely like not cool. There were other people whose intentions were like definitely genuine, and that they were like concerned for my soul and all that kind of shit, because they were good friends, and they were like, I don't want to see you go to damnation, buddy. And I'm like, that's part of the problem with your beliefs, man. So but yeah, I
don't want to see you burn either, but
right. So, but like, I get it, but at the same time, that doesn't, that's, there is just like a certain way, especially like I grew up in like the boonies, like out in the country in the mountains, and people of a different religion, when you're not Christian, or even the wrong kind of Christian, you get treated a certain way up there. Like for a lot of time when I was in high school, I was Episcopalian, and that was grounds enough in that area to be like, well, you're not a real Christian. In spite of how serious I was about the Bible. So, like, I don't know. That's also one of the weird things that I find about Christianity, is that you can be a Christian and still not a Christian.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you never really got into the young Earth creationism stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
That always struck me as kind of funny, because I know other Christians that are the same. They believe in evolution. They know that it's factual. Of course, they throw the spin that God just flipped the switch and everything happened from there.
Like that God is the solution for abiogenesis or something like that. Like I've seen that a lot, where it's like, yeah, God's like the initiating factor.
How can they say that out of one side and then say that it's the true word of God, the whole book?
Oh, you're talking about like with the Genesis thing?
Yeah, or any of that, right? Like you say, well, I believe this, but I still believe the book is the word of God, so it must be true.
The point was that the point of Genesis was that God created the universe, and he has established it with so that he can have a relationship with us, and that we have dominion over his creation, and that he has charged us with taking care of it. That was my belief as a Christian. That's what the point of Genesis was.
I see.
Or at least that creation story.
But it was all fucked up and out of order and shit.
That didn't necessarily matter.
Sun,
you can have
okay, sure.
Yeah, like it's metaphorical storytelling. Like and I hold that as a pagan. I don't necessarily believe that Thor actually had some goats that he beat back into shape. Like, but I don't. It's like that's the other thing with polytheists, is that we don't really have literalists, because we all have like a more esoteric understanding of these texts and legends and creation stories and so on. But with Christianity, like that seems that understanding that is normal with pagans is looked down upon for some reason. Like you're not Christian if you don't believe that the earth was created in 7 literal 24-hour days. And it was always strange to me as a Christian, where I was like, what? But no, it's just, it's a story, right? It's a story. And this is the point of the story. This is what God's telling us with the story, is that this is the narrative that he created the world. We have dominion over it. And we are the ones to take care of it. He's charged us with that responsibility, which means as a Christian, you should be an environmentalist. Like you should be taking care of the earth. You should not be just like polluting the living shit out of it and littering or whatever. Like treating the earth like your damn trash can. The earth is a creation of God, and it deserves the respect of being a creation of God. So take care of it. The part of Genesis that bothered me, I've tried. They don't listen to me because I'm pagan. But like I try to stay away from trying to interpret the Bible to Christians, because as soon as I do it and I put that idea out there, it's like, oh well, we can't believe that because it came from the pagan guy.
That used to be one of you.
So it's the words of the devil coming at us through the pagan. So we can't agree with that.
Doe Eyes says you're a real wizard. She's seen the hat. So
I do have. There is a hat.
Oh shit!
Yeah. So that's the thing.
Wow.
I have it in the background, but it's black leather, so you're not going to see it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I got robes and everything. So,
best I could do is
the robes. The origin of the robes is actually I dressed up as a necromancer for Halloween.
Oh, sweet.
So I wound up with all these like black robes and stuff like that. And I was just like, well, I have these robes. I might as well get a hat, because I'm calling this is after I started being like, oh, I'm Ocean the Wizard. Because I was making a reference to like, I travel a lot. I'm reading a lot. That's the wanderer that is in pursuit of knowledge as a worshiping of Odin. That fits the image of wizard, so I'll just go with it as kind of a self-parody and have fun. And then I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I need a hat that I can wear, like just to make fun of myself. Because I like one of the things that I love about polytheism is that
but you had to go get a badass leather one though.
Of course, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna fucking do it. Do it serious.
If you
go bigger.
Never mind.
There's a saying that I more or less live by. Anything not worth doing is worth doing well. So if I'm gonna get a wizard hat, it's not worth doing unless it's not worth getting a shitty one, because then you're just wearing a shitty wizard hat. If I'm gonna get a wizard hat, I need to get a good fucking wizard hat. Because it's totally not worth it to get a wizard hat, but it's totally worth it to get a nice wizard hat.
Yeah. What you can be proud of.
Right. It's like, oh, I could wear it and that looks stupid, but it does look like you put effort into it. Yep. That's exactly right.
Oh, wow. I'm kind of jealous. I would fucking love a cool ass black leather wizard hat like that.
Oh, I got it on Etsy. I'll send you the link. It's expensive though.
Sweet. All right. We're talking a couple $100.
Yeah, it's a couple $100.
That's nothing.
So I was just like, all right, well,
I make that in a day.
Not worth doing, but worth doing well. Like if you're gonna do it, might as well do it.
I love that expression now.
No, it's my favorite. It's like words to live by. Anything not worth doing is worth doing well. It's largely like my grandfather told me that, and I was just like, I didn't get it at the time until I started like doing things for the fuck of it, and then that phrase kind of came into my head. Where it's like, well, if you're gonna do it, do it. Don't half-ass it. If you're gonna do something pointless, like do it amazing. Anyway, I made the point. I was going somewhere with that. Where were we?
We're
You
talking
were
about.
somewhere. This is such an ambling conversation.
I know. I
Like
fully
usually
expected this.
when I'm on somebody else's channel, I'm usually like fairly quiet in the background somewhere, or I'm getting into a debate with somebody or shooting the shit. But it's like not really like engaging or bonding like we're doing kind of right now, which is great. But
Right.
like
I'm good about
that's
that because it means that you're comfortable talking with me. So that's
right.
awesome.
No, you're like a cool dude. We've had like a lot of conversations like
Yeah.
in after shows and where we had philosophy conversations about Christianity and such, and
Sure.
sent you books and stuff like that. But it was like most of the time I'm on Steve's channel, and I get into a fight
But you
with
can't
somebody.
shut him up. So. oh
Also
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Also
yeah.
true.
I've witnessed.
Me
No,
getting
Steve's good
did
people
you
too. I like
did you
Steve.
see me getting the one that wound up going around for a little was when I got into a fight with Josh Brister.
No, you're gonna have
I
to give me
yelled
a
at him.
link. Is that
Um,
really?
yeah.
Wait a minute. You yelled at him.
Yeah, of course. Because his
Well, I haven't seen you get that
perspective
upset before, though.
is shit.
Okay.
It's happened every once in a while. I've blown up at a few people. And it's mostly Christians. Occasionally I get like that with an atheist. Like me and Deconverted Man were yelling at each other in one of Steve's hangout at one point, where we just like went to like it came. I'd say it came to blows, but we weren't punch each other, but we did like get really nasty with each other for a little bit.
Wow.
But
He's an
I'm
oddball,
especially,
anyways. I think.
but I've been especially mean with people like Brister because they say things. I get I guess you could say triggered on dishonesty and
So do I.
especially dishonesty in the approach to history. When somebody like warps a perspective of history the way that Jordan Peterson does, the way that Josh Brister does, and try to reframes things, like because when you go back further into history, you start to see that there's a blur when it comes to like where the contributions to civilization came from. It's all over the place, and a lot of times people like Brister and Jordan Peterson will talk about how Western civilization is the greatest contributor to all of mankind, and that we, that
Fine Western civilization.
it's Europe. It is European supremacy.
Sorry, that was my Peters, my Peterson gin.
We'll do a little bit of Peterson.
That was brilliant.
Oh no, I choose my words very carefully, and I'm very sexist about it. I don't like it.
I don't either.
But no, I don't like him because of like his approach to history, where he does like this crazy analysis and he winds up word saladaing at you. And to some people, it sounds intelligent unless you know what he's saying. And when you know what he's saying, you're like, wait a fucking, you can't know.
I know exactly.
That's
it's
not
like,
how it happened. And like, you got a Genetically Modified Skeptics channel, which another good atheist to talk to. He has a video on Jordan Peterson talking about his interpretations on two Chinese pagan deities, and just calls him out for it. There's a point with two like snakes intertwined, and Jordan Peterson is like, that's DNA, and Genetically Modified Skeptic is like, no, it's snakes fucking, because the two gods, it's Nuwa and Fuxi, and Nuwa and Fuxi are consorts. So a depiction of them as snakes twirled up with each other, and then you watch snake sex, it makes way more sense when you have two gods that are depicted as consorts intertwined with one another, rather than saying, well, that's some concept that they never had access to, that they saw while they were on drugs. Like, that's just not, right. It's not the same thing.
And I'd love to have Genetically Modified Skeptic on my show, but he's yet to answer any messages that I sent him.
He's a chill dude. I'll shoot your channel over to him.
Right,
it's
cool.
Not that he'll listen to me anymore, but I've had like a couple of conversations with him, and I haven't, like, he and I it's interesting, like with as far as like
super smart
perspectives.
guy. I very
Yeah,
much
no,
like him.
he's great. But he's one of the people that I find really interesting when it comes to like atheist perspectives on someone like me, because I'm definitely somebody like I'm, very much into spiritualism. I defend the concept of religion.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm a lot of things that atheists will get frustrated with if I'm Christian, but I'm also like very socially and scientifically in line with what atheists are fighting for. I think that we should have
Sure.
scientific education in schools. I think that we don't need to be teaching any form of fucking creationism. Get that crap out of the science classroom. It's off topic.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
when it comes to the tolerating people's sexual orientation, gender identity, in whatever fucking form or fashion that it comes into, it's not your job to try and
just watched a video on
enforce
that today.
that crap.
Right.
Like we're they atheists and pagans generally are often in line on these things, but in conversations we'll get caught up on the epistemology conversation where it comes to, well, why do you believe in gods? And it's the whole argument about whether or not we're justified, where we tend to use like experience or ancient philosophy and so on. Like Cicero wrote a ton about this kind of stuff, and we'll get into fights about that rather than talking about things that are actually like that affect each other. And that's been one of the things that I've been trying to do in talking with atheists that are in this community, is be like, well, we do have things that we agree on, and we do have things that are like that we heavily agree on that Christianity is a mutual problem. And
you don't see too many pagans trying to run around and yell objectively moral shit at atheists.
No,
right?
no.
I've yet to come across that.
The problem with I mean, there's a few problems with pagans when it comes to what we call like UPG, which you might be familiar with that concept. Are you familiar with UPG?
Heard it, but for life of me, it's not ringing a bell of what it actually means.
So it's unverified personal gnosis. I mean, it's essentially if I have a spiritual experience, that's unverified personal gnosis. So when you get two pagans, they start arguing about unverified personal gnosis. That's where you wind up getting like, I believe this because of my UPG. Well, I believe this because of my UPG. Then they start fighting. And but that's something that's like, it doesn't seem to come to blows as much as like a Calvinist and an open theist fighting or something like that with Christianity. Where like open theists are like heavy into free will and Calvinists are like totally not, and they start like damning each other to hell, calling the other one like an idol worshiper and stuff like that. Pagans fighting, it's more about like, well, this is the perspective that I have of my experience, this is the perspective I have of my experience, and that can get heated sometimes. But when it comes to like the atheist perspective on us, genetically modified skeptic, to bring it back to that, I've had a few conversations with him, and he seems to be more on the lines of pagans aren't necessarily the problem. Some beliefs are, and the beliefs that GM Skeptic recognizes and I recognize, we both see as being a problem. Like I'm like when we get into alternative medicines and anti-vax stuff, that stuff pops up among pagans, pops up among atheists, pops up hella bad among Christians.
Sure does.
So, but both of us have the perspective of that's toxic shit, and we should be. And there are empirical ways of discussing that. Put those in front of people. So, that is something that atheists and a lot of polytheists can align on, because
it's dangerous in my opinion. So
right, and like what I've found with heathens, is there's a lot of different kinds of personalities, and heathens being Germanic pagans, like when you get into Norse pantheon, a lot of them are very like grounded and get into more of a logical approach. You do have some like I don't know, like conservative manliness approaches, especially when you get into like folkism and like racist bullshit. But like by and large, heathens seem to be like more on the evidence-based grounded side, and they're more interested in, if you show them scientific evidence on something, they'll agree with you. They'll be like, oh, okay, cool, I understand that and acknowledge that. And I'm one of that type of heathen.
Much with the Christian community, though. You could drop evidence
right,
in their lap and they'll just dismiss it.
And that's, again, with like creationists and shit. Like a lot of Christians, honestly, will do this too. Like, you get Christians.
You're right.
That
I meant the extremists.
Yeah, America's big with, at least North America, I think we're big with creationists. It's like 30-something% of Christians, right? But it's still a minority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some number. Mm-hmm. But why do they seem to have the loudest voice right now?
Oh, because the crazy people are always the loud ones. Like, when you get into even politics, what most people are fairly moderate people, right? But then who are the ones that are the loud ones dominating the conversation? It's all the nut jobs. Like, that's why we have, like, who's the big conservative voices that people listen to? You get people that listen to Rush Limbaugh, who's a fucking bloviator. You get people that listen to Ann Coulter. Like, these are the big conservative voices. They're like hard this way, and then the like, I think that the left has its own personalities that are like that, especially when you get into like the more radical forms of it. It's messy.
They're just as nutbar.
So religion is the same thing, where you get like the loud people, the people that are like really fucking gung ho for themselves, are usually like, there's something that they're doing that's a little weird. So that's why with heathens you get like the loud people that are these like folkist racist people that are like white separatists or white nationalists or something like that. And then with Christians you have these creationists, and then sometimes you also get into like the white supremacy kind of shit with Christianity too. And it's so strange to believe in a loving God and yet be a racist prick. I just don't.
It blows me away.
There's a meme in the heathen community going around like right now talking about Odin, saying he's the all father, not the some father, as a rebuking of these like the racist people. It's like you can't follow this religion unless you're European or some shit. It's like, okay, fuckers.
Everybody wants to have it their way, but what do you do?
Yeah, and that's like, I think a lot of like ideologies have something weird that's that's like, there's a group of people that are like fucked up in the religion, where with Christians you have like the obvious cases like Westboro Baptist Church or any of those other like weird culty churches that don't have any windows. With pagans you do have like the folkist types, like these like radical racists that are really fucking loud. And a lot of us as among heathens are like tired of that shit being the first thing that people bump into, because you see like the Charlottesville protests and stuff like that. You see a lot of our symbols there, and it's a lot of people that aren't even polytheists. They're just like cultural fanatics of whiteness, and they just want to be like, hey, I've got my helm of awe. And that's not even your fucking religion. What are you doing? I'm reclaiming my culture. That's not how they saw it. They traded with Muslims and they went to war with Britain.
Yeah, but you think they actually know that?
No,
probably not.
Because none of them have cracked open a history book, or they've cracked it open just enough to listen to Jordan Peterson's voice come out and go, Western civilization. Okay, it's superior. Oh, okay. Well, then we should. I go off.
Sort of sound a little bit like Kermit the Frog there, Peterson.
I think I've said this before.
The same person.
Because Mr. Atheist loves my Jordan Peterson impression. His impression of Jordan Peterson is an impression of my impression of Jordan Peterson. And
I like his impression of Stewie.
Yes, yeah, his impression. He's got Stewie down.
It's fucking bang on.
But if you ask him about his impression of Jordan Peterson, he will admit it's like, well, I got it from Ocean. I'm trying to imitate Ocean's impression of Jordan Peterson, but in impersonating Jordan Peterson, it's the same voice pattern to Kermit the Frog and Brett Kavanaugh. I like beer. You have it's the same kind of like tightness in the back of the throat where you start to go, well,
I do Kermit.
Women are inferior.
I don't know if I can,
or something like that. But
that's pretty good though, dude. I got to tell you.
His voice fascinates me. That people will be like, I don't know. Whenever I tried reading, it's like, how is Jordan Peterson a theist? And I tried reading some excerpts from his book about God, try and like understand what he meant by God. He's got this like metaphorical idea about God being related to truth, and that there's like a inordinate principle that everybody is kind of pointed to, and so on like that. And I was just reading this, what the fuck are you saying? And like the more that I like try to understand what his concept of God is, I get like a picture of it, but it's not theism. It's like this, like he's following a set of ideas that that he's cooked up as calling God, and it's not. It doesn't have anything to do. Like sometimes it seems to have to do with something like external to him, but it's not. It's not theism in the same way that like a Christian would put it.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because he always like, well, it depends on how you define God, like.
Right, but that's part of how he escapes answering that question, because he's like, people want to put me in one of these two camps, and like, okay, yeah, people do want to kind of try and classify you, but the more that you fight against giving a fucking direct answer, like I think that, do you believe in a God separate from humanity that is the all-powerful creator of the universe or something like that? Do you believe in that, Jordan Peterson? If he gave an answer, I want a straight answer from him on that question, because I think the answer is no.
So do I.
Like I think that his opinion is a no. I think that
he dances around it so much, and I think he's afraid to offend some of his fans or listeners if he's
got so many fans
right?
that are Christians and so many fans that are atheists. Like you get a lot of atheists that like get into this this Jordan Peterson like ideology. It's not a cult, but it's
cult-esque.
it's got a lot of groupthink to it, and but it reminds me of the scene in Life of Brian, where Life of Brian is like, you're all individuals, and then they all the people respond back to him in unison, we're all individuals. Like it's like, you are our teacher, and he's like trying to stop them. It's like, no, go off and fuck off. But I think that like Jordan Peterson adherents, acolytes, whatever, they have this idea about themselves that they're like Jordan Peterson, or like the image of Jordan Peterson they have. It's very like this intellectual thing. And but they each have their own idea of what God is, and Jordan Peterson has been just weaselly enough with his wording that they can impress whatever idea of God they have onto what Jordan Peterson's concept of God is, and make it coherent with everything else that he's saying. That's just a basket, like a word basket of goodies about like truth and metaphors and subordinate principles, and or because he talks about like an ordinate principle, like there's one like truthy meaning to things. But he doesn't talk about. I haven't seen. Maybe he does this somewhere. I've never seen him actually talk about what it is. Like, what is that truth that we're going for? Because as a polytheist, I see multiple purposes to life. I see multiple purposes to interacting with people, civilization, and so on. And that's the Romans saw it similarly. That meaning was multifaceted. But with the Jordan Peterson perspective, and this is a concept of monotheism, I think, where there is one ultimate meaning that everybody's got to like be united on and strive towards. I just don't think that's the case.
No, neither do I.
Like I don't think there's like a meaning objective.
I think it's clearly not the case.
Right. So, huh. That's another thing that, like, generally, I think pagans and atheists can get together on.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things like that I think. Um, but I regularly run into problems with atheists on that end. Where I'm like, but we could work together, guys. No, you're religious. It's poison.
Yeah,
Okay.
some of them. Yeah, you're going to get fanatics in every group of people, right? So
Yeah.
you just got to weed your way through those assholes and get to the ones that are like, "Hey, we'll
I
talk to you."
think I've been in this community long enough that I think that I've bumped into a number of people that do hold those kind of opinions, where it's like, I don't care necessarily what you believe as long as you're not hurting anybody, kind of atheist. And
Hmm.
as long
That's yeah.
as long as you have like some boundaries about where and how religion hurts people. Because
Hmm.
I've seen, like, have personally seen polytheistic faiths do, like, in an organized fashion, turn themselves into nasty cults. And I've also heard stories from other people who left like pagan covens or whatever for reasons that were just
Hmm.
like, holy shit, this person was disgusting.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Situations. I
there's
know
one
what you mean.
person in particular that said that the priestess of her coven was saying that because she was chronically sick and disabled, that the gods were abandoning her, which was like, holy fuck, really?
Yeah, like
Is that,
that's not cool.
like, you're gonna, and that just seems to fly in the face of personal spirituality, like the whole reason why anybody's polytheist in the first place, where it comes
Mhm.
to personal experiences and so on. Like, you're not, so this
Mhm.
person is trying to dictate what her experiences of the gods are. And that's where you're like, okay, well, you're violating some serious fucking problems here, and
Mhm.
you're being an abusive dick about it.
Yeah, like
uh,
yeah, not even taking into consideration what that person. It's almost as if they just want to chastise them for it rather than
yeah,
offer any help or something or an opinion that might help or whatever.
right. Which, like, like one of the big points about uh, like, when you get, especially in heathenry, this is a thing where it is very much a community based religion, where
Mhm.
you're supposed to be being the best example of yourself that you can be individually, and use that to help everybody around you, to further your
Sure,
community and your, like, your circle of people,
that's actually
people that
where I
are
got that expression from. Was back in those days, right? Be the
the
best version of yourself that you can be.
right. And, like, that's something that if you're using your spiritual position, uh that, in order to make someone feel worthless, like, using your authority in the group to make somebody feel worthless based on nothing
Mhm.
other than, like, nothing. It's just something she
Mhm.
arbitrarily said that flies in the face of history. Like, the for heathenry, a very obvious example that people have seen in
It's
the
like a
TV
power
show
trip.
Vikings, um Ivar the Boneless, badly disabled, one of the most feared Vikings in history, if not the most feared Viking in history.
Mhm.
To Are
That's
you
a
going to
great
say that
show.
because his legs don't work, he's abandoned by the gods, when he was like he's made this huge mark on history? I don't think you could do that. There's no historical justification for being able to say something like that. Um, so, anywho, that's my rant on that crap. I get I get
Well,
really frustrated when it comes to, like, pagans, like, abusing their fucking uh position, because I will I a lot of problems that I have with Christians is
I
they don't
get pissed off when
self-police.
anybody does it. Yeah,
Right. Christian
it,
and
it
my
angers me.
big problem with Christians is they don't self-police. They won't call out their own. I have a very different opinion on that when it comes to polytheists. If there's a
Mm,
polytheist that I see is doing something, having a very abusive approach or a dangerous approach, or this that's like, um I generally don't have a problem with, like, beliefs that disagree with mine. I do have a problem when you're a pagan and you're trying to promote something like anti-vax, or when you're trying to promote something like this abusive practice that I just referenced.
mhm.
That's where I get like, no, calling out my own on that shit. and
and you should.
Yeah. Which I wish Christians did more, but they tend to be calling each other out on like doctrinal things rather than praxis things, which to the pagan, to polytheists, the praxis is more important. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what did this verse mean? No, there's the beliefs, and then there's like how you're living, how you're practicing them, what you're putting into practice. And are you hurting people? Especially when you're hurting people that are like part of your group.
Yeah,
I'm
which is really shitty. You know what? Rant, because you never know. Because like people might hear this and they'll be like, "Yeah, you know, you raise a good point." And my coven leader is kind of a douchebag like that sometimes too. Yeah. I'm going to have words with that guy, right, or gal, or whatever. So I think ranting like this is good because you never know who's going to stumble on it, right?
No, absolutely.
Get some ideas, sure.
The Havamal says it's verse 127. So Havamal is the words of Odin. It's a like closest thing you could have with like a direct holy text.
Have it over.
Yeah, but it says, you know, when you see evil, call it out, and when you see someone perpetrating evil, call it out, and don't let them know any peace. And the word that's used for peace there is frith, and frith is supposed to be the peace between community, the peace between people that are practicing together. And you know, if you see someone that's doing something abusive, call them out. And you know, they're breaking the frith, or breaking frith, and you should you know, make it known and approach it, because that's the only way you're going to be able to self-police.
I had a friend who had a band called Breaking Frith, by the way.
It's a good name.
Back in the day, like in high school, Breaking Frith.
What genre?
They were like they were deathcore before it was deathcore. You know what I mean? They were just really hardcore.
It's like as soon as whenever you see a Norse reference in a band name, it's like, yep, you're a metal band, aren't you? You're like,
yeah.
Like, yep.
There are some operatic shit too sometimes.
Right.
Like what are they called? Night something or other. Anyways.
Right.
Doe-eyed Atheist, my friend Rachel says that we're doing a great job, and she was really glad she could make it for our chat. So we got some feedback already. Yeah, she's been out of the community for a while. Oh, she's so cute.
Yeah, she's really cool.
She's so awesome. And I didn't meet. Oh, never mind. I already stuck my foot in my mouth. She's cute, but not. You know what I mean. She's all around a big bundle of cuteness.
Like gonna let you put that foot in your mouth and bite it off.
Yeah. Later on, I'll pull the shoe out and we'll have some more conversation. What do you say? What do you say we wrap this and do a bit of an after party if you're down for that?
Sounds great. I'm ready to go.
All right,
I'll go for the after party.
What I'll do, we'll shut this one down and I'll send you a fresh link, and I'll put the link in for my group too, and people can jump in.
Cool. If there's any like closing questions or anything like that, we can shoot it over to the after show.
Sure. Yeah. If you guys. Staggers and call me out. I fucking dare you. Hey, if you give me a reason to, I will, buddy. You know I will. All right, so we'll do an after party. So you guys, if you're interested in hanging out with me and Ocean, and you got some questions that you weren't able to ask during the show here, you feel free to join us. You know where to find the link. And if you aren't in my group and you do want to join, just let me know through Twitter, and I'll send you a link there. Thank you, everyone, for showing up for this. As you can tell, we had a great time. I think I did. I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure you
fucking hated it.
Yeah, your behavior speaks that volumes of that.
Absolutely. I'm extremely uncomfortable with you.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Yeah, so once again, guys, Geek Room, those guys are fantastic. So you can go get one of these shirts at their channel. And also sub to Ocean. He's technically only got one video up right now, but he's all over the place, so you can find him in other videos.
Yeah,
I've got a link to his channel in the description, and I've got his Twitter handle in the description.
I'll put things on the damn channel. Like, so the story with the YouTube channel.
Put mirror shit, man.
People know about me, but I don't have anything on my channel. I'm like the lost YouTuber. But I've shown up on Steve McRae's channel. I've shown up on now on your channel. I was on Truth Wanted brief as a co-host at one point,
Which was fantastic, by the way.
I've been on Non Sequitur show a couple of times now. Yeah, that was I really enjoyed being on Truth One, and
I hope you ask me one day.
That would be fun.
So I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Randolph, who's in the chat, and I are doing our own call-in show at a very near future.
Yeah, and as like I think that if you're doing your own call-in show as well, going on Truth Wanted would be really cool because he's like doing regularly guest hosts, and I think that Dan would be
every episode.
Yeah, Dan would be super into, like I think cross promotion kind of thing. So,
sure. Well, he said he'd come on my channel, but he was in the midst of moving, so he wanted to wait till he settled in, and then I said we'll rehash it out later.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got like a list of like video topics now that I'm gonna start addressing. The questions that I regularly get, that go into like really big specifics about stories and mythology, all the way to like generalized questions as far as like what is polytheism in the fucking first place. So,
I think that'd be great, dude. I really do.
Yeah, and I'm excited to start it, and I'm just working on getting some details worked out, and then I'll jump into it.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, man. Thanks very much for coming in and hanging out with me and having this little conversation. I found it really interesting, and being where you are at one time myself. Except I kind of, it was weird. I dabbled in the Celtic shit with the Wiccan shit and the Norse shit. I kind of wrapped everything together because to me it was all fascinating. It still is. I just, after getting into actual sciences, like becoming a chemist and dealing with biochemistry and all kinds of shit, I couldn't hold on to the deity belief thing anymore. So I just kind of left it in the dust. Yeah, but I still love the culture, and I still love all that stuff. And I've been to Stonehenge. I've been to all these cool ass places like the pyramids and everything, right? So it's pretty amazing shit. So anyways,
real quickly, I guess something that I don't go into very often, but because I try to simplify when I'm in like debates or something like that, I'll say that like I'm Germanic polytheist. It's sort of true. I'm a Germanic polytheist. I am also into the Roman and the Celtic pantheons. So I'm what is called a multi-traditionalist. Cool. So I follow like that's what
you would call me too, I suppose.
As a polytheist, that's fine. There's not an issue with that. But sometimes
poly. The word poly.
There you go, multi. Or yeah. So
many, I think, or whatever it means.
Yeah, many. But I try to simplify it for the purposes of debates because there's like you get into these conversations where people will try to be like, well, you can't be both or something like that, when you can.
Bullshit.
And I can explain that, but it takes up a bunch of valuable time in a debate. So for the sake of time, I usually simplify that. But if somebody wanted to call me out on it in a debate, I'd be fine with having the conversation. I just generally don't, it's for time's sake.
Besides, you'll be making videos on those topics at some point anyways.
Right. There we go.
Just click on one of those and there you go.
I addressed that. Yeah, that's largely what I need to do because I do get a lot of the same questions. So
that's what Matt does nowadays. Matt Dillahunt always says, I spoke about that in one of my atheist debate videos. You should go check that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That way you just, yeah.
You just
all right,
post
man.
the link.
Thanks again. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
And
I guess we'll do an after show.
Get into an after party. Yeah, you bet.
Cool.
All right, you guys. Once again, thanks again for showing up and hanging out with us and throwing some questions our way. We're going to get into an after show probably within the next 5 to 10. I got to set it up because I didn't do it. I was kind of rushed. But we'll see you guys shortly. And remember, guys, what I always say at the end of these things, it's called faith because it's not knowledge.